Hello there. How did you enjoy that music?
It's total elevator music.
It totally
It's
is.
just, yeah. Do you hear it as well?
I do hear it, yeah.
Okay. I've just invited Stephen and Daniel as well to speak. I don't know if they
Yeah, I invited them too. Sometimes Twitter Spaces does not work so great with invitations. Let's hope that okay, they made it in. Awesome.
There we go.
Howdy.
By the way, how many speakers can we have in a call or in a Twitter Space? Can you have everyone speak?
Let's Google that. "13, including the host and 2 co-hosts, can speak in a space at any given time."
That is a random number, 13.
Very random.
Well, let's get 13 people up here.
Just a second, I'm still setting up a few things here. Feel free to chat.
Can you hear me okay, Mo?
Yeah, I can hear you. Daniel, can you hear us? Are you able to speak?
Yes, all good. Missed
Cool.
that cool music, huh?
Hey, Andrew's here as well. Nice to see you. Yashraj is also here. Nice.
Yeah, let's try this max listener thing. I'm just gonna invite everyone.
Yeah, let's break Twitter Spaces.
Feel free to reject it if you don't want to.
No, don't reject it. We have to break Twitter Spaces today.
I think it breaks just by itself. I don't think we have to do very much there.
Shots fired.
Yeah. Right, but how about we kick it off? We have 10 people here. 4 minutes after. So I'm Christoph, and I organize. Well, how do you say it? I'm the host, I guess, through the Bitcoin Design Community account, but I'm also through the website listening in separately for some reason. So this is community call number 50, and the idea was to talk about BTC Prague, which just happened. I think 4 days ago or so was over. A few people are still traveling back. I think some people who went there are still. Some people who traveled from the US or other places, they came. They continued on and explored Europe a little bit. So some people might still be traveling. But I had a really good experience there, and my thought for this call, and my thought for this call was actually that we start a little bit with the lead up to this, to how this whole thing even came about, and then just share some stories. How does that sound? Yeah, sound good? Okay, see lots of hands. Awesome, cool. Then I'll kick things off a little bit. So you can also click up to see the newsletter. There are some images, some snapshots from the conference there. And as a Bitcoin design community, we have had presence at conferences, but that was just basically individuals just going there and hanging out because they like to go to Bitcoin conferences. And occasionally there were some talks. I think Stephen had an improvised table at Bitcoin Miami, and I think that was kind of the first physical, I guess, space presence that the community had. And so last year, some conversations had going into the third year of the community, like how do we do more with conferences? How can we, I don't know, meet more people, meet more projects, represent everything that's happening in the community? Wild ideas were thrown out, even so far as organizing our whole own conference, which did feel a little bit intimidating. And then somehow this BTC Prague thing, I think it somehow organically evolved. So I took a quick look, and the BTC Prague Twitter account first tweeted on December 11th. And then Stick, one of the guys from Trezor, he sent out an email to invite some people to Hackday and just wanted to gauge what the interest is. That was mid-January. Then we had a booth. We ended up getting a booth confirmation for the expo around end of March. And the booth, basically, Spiral said that, well, they could have a booth, but they don't really want it if we want it. And then we said, of course, we want it. Thank you. So thanks to Spiral for hosting that. And then I think, Michael, you're going to have to shed some light on that, because somehow we ended up organizing a room and a track at the Hack Day. And I feel like that also came about super organically. And I think it was because you ended up meeting them in person in Prague, where you live. Is that right? Do I remember that correctly?
Yeah, that's that's about right. So I was originally how it came about is that in September the same organizers organized a conference called Chain Camp, which is for Czech and Slovak audiences, and there were also I think more than 2,000 people, and there was nothing about design at that conference. So I got in touch with them somewhere in, I think at the end of September or something, um, and suggested to run maybe a workshop next year in September. And when one of the organizers reached out or replied to me, we had a call, and he said, "Yeah, I mean, it's nice that you want to contribute to Chain Camp, but we're much more focused on BTC Prague, and wouldn't you want to kind of jump in there?" So I said, "Yeah, sure," because why not? And yeah, that's how they put me in touch with Stick as well. So it was kind of uh, at the same time, because we met with Stick then. I think it was somewhere in November, and I think it was still a bit too early to really do anything. So we reconvened somewhere in mid-January or something, like you said. I think that's kind of the parallel um, discussions that I had. And then I think from January onwards, mainly you, Mo, and I were kind of running with the design um, track, and Stick was running with the other three. I think he was, at least to me, he said he was happy that he didn't have to worry about that part of the hack day. So that's how that came about.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think the funny thing about it was that I think there were 4 tracks planned: on-chain, layer 2, privacy, and sovereignty. And the fourth one, I think it was initially called fun and creativity. So I totally
Yeah.
love that we're so serious designers, right? But and then we get a call, a track called fun and creativity, which on the other hand is not a great thing. Like if you're at a conference and you're the people that bring all the fun and creativity, and that's what people expect, then that's a pretty fun, pretty awesome thing to organize, right? You can just go for it. But I think we ended up more serious than what fun and creativity makes it sound like.
Yeah, I have the feeling that he expected something different, to maybe have just a room where you can, yeah, I don't know. Without, I mean, we ended up having a whole schedule, right? Basically similar to the other tracks, and I have the feeling that Stick wasn't expecting, a whole schedule. It was more like, I think he expected it a bit more casual, but still, he really liked it. I talked to him at the after party for quite some time on Saturday, so that was he was happy.
Yeah, it's a common thing, misconception about the design space. It always gets lumped into the fun and creativity bucket, I feel like, and I think a lot of people tend to think of our job descriptions as just like kind of making pretty pictures and stuff like that, and instead of making products usable. But that's fine too. I think we delivered on that in terms of having talks about usability, and also it was a fun and creative space as well.
Yeah. On the other hand, it does. If you think about athletes or artists or performers or so, they make it look elegant and simple, but underneath of all of that is just a ton of training and hard work. So on the outside, it may just seem so playful and simple, but it is hard work underneath it all.
It was. I felt like we planned and arranged things very well leading up to the event. There were so many little balls that needed to be arranged, so many little things along the way. But I think we were all fairly relaxed once the conference came. Is there anyone from the audience who's also been at the to the conference? Feel free to raise your hand or give a thumbs up. We'd love to hear what you enjoyed about the conference or the hack day. And this is BTC Prague that we're referring to. Here we go. We have a thumbs up here. I'll invite you
onto this. Raise your hand. Yeah. Cool.
Oh yeah.
You got it, Mo.
Mr. Pixel Paranoia. I've invited him onto stage. Feel free to speak. If you don't want to speak, it's also okay.
That sounds like a tough condition, Pixel Paranoia, in a very digital space.
Let's see, I'll invite again.
Yeah. But if it takes a minute, so basically I'll just continue and then we can switch over once he joins. Yeah, and then it was just off to the races, trying to figure out what we wanted to do, what ideas we had, what the space was like, what we could do with it. We had these ideas about putting in sofas and furniture and doing all kinds of, we had tons of ideas, and then we just had to wiggle through them and come up with something. Okay, cool. Mr. Pixel Paranoia, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I saw your booth at Prague, and I was going to say hi, but you talk with so much people, and yeah, it was a great conference. But I was very curious what your booth was really all about.
Yeah, thanks for that. It was maybe you had the same experience as I did. It was basically nonstop talking to people all day. It was such a good energy at the whole place, and it was just one conversation after the other. So with our booth, Bitcoin Design is a community. So we basically just wanted to represent the community, meaning all of the work that has happened in the last 3 years, all the things that are happening on an ongoing basis. And it's quite diverse because in the community there's kind of the same mission about making Bitcoin more usable and accessible for more people around the world. But within that, there are so many people with their own side quests and mini missions. So we just try to get the top message across, that there's this community with this mission. And then we had a slideshow that had 30 slides or so that kind of covered individual projects, individual things that happened, like design reviews and these community calls and the newsletter, and stuff like the design guide and other things. And then based on, for each conversation, I think went a little bit different based on who showed up and what they were interested in. And a nice thing too, I think Stephen pointed that out very well at the expo, was that a lot of people from other projects, they just showed up because they were aware of the community. Maybe they used the design guide before, they hung out in Discord or had joined a call previously, and they just stopped by to say hi. And that was a nice way to get to meet some people in person that we've only known virtually before, or maybe through some random interaction on some GitHub issue or some Discord conversation or so. And yeah, so I thought there was also a really nice aspect of it. Mo, Stephen, others, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think I had a couple conversations with people who said they used the design guide, or part of it at least. So that was actually good validation that it's relevant and that people really use it. and were interested in it. So that was nice. And I did because I'm fairly new to the community. I didn't know very many people or almost none. So it was really great to make these connections, talk to people, and yeah, refine the pitch as well. Because if you tell the same story over and over 3 times on the entire day for 3 days, you get pretty a good routine going.
And you also had to give the pitch in Czech and in French once, right? How did that go?
Yeah, well, the French one that was more of an experiment because I speak French like twice a year, but it was okay, and you can always switch to English words if it doesn't if the vocabulary is missing. And Czech is my second language, so that was no problem at all. And there were quite a few people who spoke Czech there, so it was actually cool that some of the people didn't speak English that well, so it was quite easy to tell them what was going on. But yeah, two of them mixed up BTC Prague with ETH Prague, so that was a short conversation.
Nice. And they figured that out at the design booth
Yeah,
and
I
not when entering the building or
I
something.
don't know. I think they were making. Whoa.
Yeah, so that's going wild.
I think they were making their way through the expo, hoping that something about ETH would show up, and then I tell them, yeah, it's probably not going to happen. So yeah,
Also want to give a big kudos to Stephen and Johns because they did an amazing job of organizing the design duel. Maybe Stephen wants to share a bit about that. We had a design duel on the hack day, and there were some prompts that were generated. It was a really fun exercise, where everyone had fun. So yeah, I don't know if you'd like to speak about that, Stephen, but that was very enjoyable. The design duel.
Could I add a little bit of context first about the hack day?
Yep,
Um,
sounds good.
so the so we showed up for the hack day. That's where we had a room. I think it was what size was it? 6 by 9 meters. There were several other conference rooms. It was the the whole second floor of a hotel. So we came in the day before, which is June 6th, I think, to kind of organize furniture. We had rented additional. We cleared out all the regular chairs and tables from the hotel and put in sofas everywhere, basically. Set up some mood lighting and some LEDs, which was really fun to set up. And we had our custom designed Bitcoin design pillows that we brought, and then we put everywhere to add that personal touch. And then the next day so I think we had around 15 or so seats, and then maybe another 5 to 10 people could stand. So a fairly small group, but the hack day also was a much smaller group. While the expo was 10,000 or so, the hack day was, I think, maybe 300 people or so.
yeah,
So much smaller audience there. And then we did have this, I think we had 10 events or so in total. Every hour we had something. The intent was to do really diverse things and also keep them casual conversations. And we had stuff like talk about inheritance, UX design. We had the design duel, which Stephen can talk a little bit more about it. We had a card game and coffee session and an AI art session. So just still some very serious topics, but also a very playful side to a lot of things. Okay, Stephen, did you want to say something about the design duel?
Yeah, sure. So this was my second time doing one of these. I did a product and design summit in Nashville, Tennessee, earlier in the year. This is where I did the first design duel. I think some people from the audience here were at that one. I think, yeah, and Andrew in the audience was at that one. So the basic gist is that we have a big group Figma file that we send out to everyone who participates, and you enter the Figma file, and there is like a list of prompts and users. So we have things like different products and different users. So like I'm looking at it right now. There was like a mobile lightning wallet splash screen, or a lightning tip jar, or a hardware wallet, block explorer, things like those. So these are product ideas. And then we have users, and the users are always something a little off the wall. Hardcore dog lovers, self-sovereign Rizik chefs, humanoid crabs with pincer hands, seafaring pirates, telekinetic parrots, European Banking Authority officials, and Prague's craft beer brewers. So we sort of we got everyone divided up into brackets. So like different teams and players, like we paired them up in like these matches against each other, and then we assigned them something they had to compete on. So we got all the engineers from, or like a good bit of the engineers from the BTC Pay server project to participate as designers. We split them up into two teams going against each other. They had to do a mobile Lightning Wallet backup reminder for seafaring pirates. And then Jakob competed against Mo and Haley doing a block explorer for self-sovereign Rizik chefs. I didn't know what Rizik was, but apparently it's like a schnitzel, like a Czech schnitzel, right? And then Julian and Michael made a lightning tip jar for telekinetic parrots. Now, you really want to stress the importance of like getting to know your users. Definitely check out the UX research toolkit that Mo and Jakob have been working on, because that's the kind of project that really helps you do like usability testing and getting in touch with the users. Because really, the Julian and Michael, I mean, they didn't spend enough time talking to the telekinetic parrots. They didn't learn what their what their lives are like, how they're interacting with Bitcoin and Lightning. I think they confused them with telepathic parrots. But we ended up with some interesting product designs that came out of that competition for parrots that can read your mind. So we got some nice tip jar stuff there, and then we also got some nice block explorer designs that Jakob and Mo and Haley were doing in Figma. Got a really nice block explorer I'm looking at right now where all the blocks are schnitzel. So that was really cool. But ultimately, one of the BTC Pay server teams took the main prize with a Lightning Wallet backup solution that gets tattooed onto the pirate's arm. And they won with a sketch on a piece of paper of how this product solution would work. So yeah, it's if it sounds silly, it's because it is silly. It's more meant to be kind of a fun thing for the end of the day. It's to, I like to have these product prompts that are like user groups that you would never ever interact with in real life. Just things that are so oddly specific that you would probably never actually design it. But it's just one of those things that kind of, I think, gets people outside of their normal thinking habits and all of that, and lets you design something fun and out of the ordinary that you wouldn't do in ordinary product design.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that. And BTC Pay, I put that tweet up there. I pinned it to the space at the top. So they really went all the way with it, even fake announced it as a new feature of BTC Pay. So that's a fun one. I think it's really nice when you can do some of these serious conversations, serious activities, but in a playful way to kind of just get into them, especially if it's something that you usually never do, that's maybe outside of your profession, skill set, comfort zone, or whatever. It's a fun way to get into it. And I think the card game that we created was a bit similar. It just takes a lot of these concepts around UX design and open source project management, and makes them just fun and playful. And you're not gonna really learn all the details about how to make the perfect product or lead the perfect team or whatnot. But it is a step into it, and maybe sometimes that's just enough to start interesting conversations. So yeah, I think that was the end of the day. That was the last event. It was fun. There was music. I think some people had beers. I think I had one. And then afterwards, people just went for dinner. And then the next day, the next 3 days was the expo. The first day of the expo was industry day. So there was no, I don't know what you call it, general audience. Everyone there was pretty much was working in the space or interested in, had some type of business or so in the space. And so it was different conversations definitely than the day after. It was a little bit less crowded. The expo hall was really nicely done. It was like just a big hall at this big expo center. On the right hand side, there was this really, really massive main stage with just all the crazy lights and big screens and everything. In the center, there was a bit of a food court, and to the left, there was the big expo with, I think, 70 plus booths, and then I think one or two more stages. There was also a corner with different swag. You could buy your books. There was a gaming corner where lots of kids and families hung out there too, including my family stopped by for a little bit. My nephew was super proud because he made around 10 euros in sats by playing some video game. He was very proud of that. And thank you for ever organized that. And yeah, what's there, Michael, Mo, Stephen, what's there to say about the expo? Did you have any stories, or do you want to share your experience there?
Yeah, so what was nice was actually that there was one stage part of the expo area, so you didn't have to buy a GA pass, I think, to go to the talks in the expo area. So I think quite a few. I have to ask the organizers. I would like to know a bit more how the distribution of these tickets was like. But that was nice, and there was the Czech stage for the locals that was actually outside of the of the building. And yeah, the weather, I think weather was nice. There was one kind of thunderstorm for like an hour or something, but the rest of it was pretty cool. And yeah, they had a nice lightning beer robot. So you could I think that was a collaboration between Satsback and some Polish robotics company, and they had a vending machine, basically a robot that you could pay with Lightning, and it would give you a beer. And I think it was also the best beer. It was the chilliest one, so that was nice.
My experience of the expo was also I felt that the first day of the expo, that was the Friday, if I remember correctly, it was not very busy. It seemed to be an opportunity for the people who had stands to kind of mingle with each other, so it was very quiet. And then the Saturday, the Friday and the Saturday after that, it was quite busy, and there were a lot of it was really busy. The hall of the stands was pretty packed. But I personally enjoyed going over to the different wallet teams because Blockstream was there and Lipa Wallet was there. Wasabi was there as well. So I really enjoyed just going over to the different teams and speaking with them and just asking them how they've been building and what problems they've been coming into and that kind of thing. So I think that was really enjoyable, but also listening to the questions that people were asking us at the stand, at the Bitcoin design stand itself, or what they were interested in knowing more about. So yeah, I think that's a pretty much a quick summary for me of my experience.
Yeah, and the expo space really emptied out every time Sailor was on stage. So that was interesting. I think that was the only two times. So he had a panel on Friday and a keynote on Saturday, and I would assume that those were the two events or the only two events where the main stage was actually full of people, because it was very big.
Okay, next time that needs to be Bitcoin design. Bitcoin design talks, everyone's there. Let's figure out how we can make that happen for BTC Prague 2024, which I think they already announced. I think the website already redirects to 2024. And Mo, you also used the opportunity to do some user testing, right? You showed a few people different websites, projects, and asked for feedback.
Yeah, I pretty much just grabbed my laptop and I went over to the Blockstream stand and I did some user testing with the Q&A guy at Blockstream. He tested out the new wallet scrutiny websites. You know, gave some good feedback. I still have like 10 pages of notes here that I need to go through. And then also tested it out with the Wasabi guys as well. And also tested it out with someone from the Albi team. So yeah, managed to do some usability testing in real life, which was the first time for me. And it was really interesting doing a live usability testing because it's different than doing it online, which has been the method that I've used since I've started. So yeah, it was fun. It was fun to do some live usability testing, and now we'll get that back to the team and then share that with the team and then carry on building. Yeah.
And Fedi also had their first, I think, mainnet, what do you call it, federation. So what are they? Pete and Skylar from Fedi. I think they showed up at our booth right on Thursday morning or so. They were like, hey, it set out this app. Can you give us some feedback? We discussed some different screens about for scanning invoices and other stuff, and they sent us some sats. We sent them back. It was that worked really smooth. That Fedi Alpha custom federation. By the way, if you were there, make sure to pull your sats out because they're going to close that federation in a few days. I only had, I think, 10 sats, but I did pull them out. And it did work pretty smoothly. Something that I found interesting is sending sats in and out of that federation through the Lightning Network was just perfectly smooth. It seems like that would be maybe a little bit of a trickier part of making this whole thing work. I also spoke with Justin Moon, who works at Fedi, and he said, yeah, there's good amount of usage, not too much. He would be nervous if there was too much, but I think he said it was a really good exercise for them. Because if you test it elsewhere, I think at a Bitcoin conference, you do get people who want to pay with Lightning and who want to test this stuff out. You can do a bit of stress testing and people maybe try to break it and whatnot, and you might not get that in other situations. So it was a good choice by them, I think.
I think one interesting thing about the Fedi demo is that a lot of people that I talked to about the Fedi wallet were kind of completely unaware of what was special about it, which was kind of cool, I guess. And that like, I think a lot of people I talked to had downloaded it where it was just this kind of, you know, wallet that was promoted. So they downloaded it and tried it. And the whole idea of like like when you're onboarding yourself, it's very easy to onboard to it. So, you know, they didn't need to learn a whole lot about the federated, you know, community custody model and all of that. And another thing too is that like the whole privacy aspect of Chaumian Cash, I think a lot of people I talked to weren't really super familiar with that. The wallet doesn't really like, you know, push the like privacy angle to you. Which is kind of cool in a way because, you know, you have like some products like Samurai and Wasabi, and their kind of like entire branding is around privacy. And it's like, you know, the Fedi wallet doesn't really need to, the privacy kind of works very easily, I feel like, with Chaumian Cash. So you don't really need to do a whole lot of education or talking about the privacy aspect of it.
Yeah, from speaking with Pete, I think, and Skylar, I think they try to keep a very minimal product at this point, and stability was really the main thing that they were looking for. That no money got lost, that wallets were set up correctly, that people could log in, log out, send, receive. But yeah, that's a good thing. It's always tempting to make a onboarding or first use as smooth as possible and just keep removing stuff. But when you do that, you also sometimes you don't explain enough, and people don't really understand what it is they're using and what makes it special. So adding in a little bit of friction to lay out some basic concepts can be a good thing. But I think they're going to figure that out through lots of testing. Yeah, for me, it was basically nonstop conversations all day long. I pretty much didn't see any other talk. I had a whole list of talks that would have been nice to see, but basically it was just nonstop conversations from the morning to the evening. And let me see if I can think of any ones that stood out. It was just such a diverse group. I was just exhausted at the end of the day, and then we just went to dinner with small groups, just asked a few people, grabbed some dinner, and then continued on the next day. What else do we have to chat about? Yeah, was there anything else you wanted to share about the conference, or anyone in the audience have any questions for us? Were there any talks that stood out that you saw, or other booth activities?
Yeah, I also didn't see anything. I think the only talk that I saw was a panel with Peter Todd and Jameson Lopp, but that was about it. So I'm looking forward to actually watching the talks when they come out online, which I don't know when it should be, but I think in a couple of weeks they should be out.
Yeah. Andrew, you raised your hand.
Yeah, I was wondering if I could talk about the board, but it's a little off topic from the conference.
Oh yeah, sure thing. I think I invited you to actually speak about that, so for sure. So if let's just wrap up the conference real quick and move on to some other things. So I think, as I mentioned earlier, some people are still traveling, but I think after this conference now, we spend a lot of, some of the core organizers spend a lot of time on it. We spend a bit of money on it. We need to kind of summarize, follow up a little bit with how things went, and then just kind of figure out what else we want to do with conferences. If we do more stuff like this, if we do less, if we do try to do our own conference. I mean, the more people chip in and organize and make things happen, the more we can do. I felt like this overall was a really good thing to do. Also took a lot of time. I personally had to put some other projects on hold for it. So I'm just now picking some of those back up. But I think it was a really good experience overall. Okay, anyone else? Any final words about the conference or stuff you'd like to see in the future, or a future conference representation? Otherwise, we'll go to Andrew's board. All right, Andrew.
All right, thanks. First of all, Stephen, I'm glad that you did the design battle again because that was super fun in Nashville. So yeah, keep it going, man. Yeah, so I'm Andrew Yang. I kind of represent the Bitcoin product community. One of the things that we've been working on over the past few months is creating a volunteer opportunity board. So we just announced it. Christoph, I'm not sure if you can find the link to that. But yeah, it's basically a
I'm looking
place
for it right now, and I will add it at the top to the pinned tweets. Give me just a second.
Sweet, thank you. Yeah, it's just basically a place for FOSS Bitcoin projects who need help. It's a place for them to post positions. And one of the focuses of the Bitcoin product community is it's a non-dev community, or it's not like a super technical community, which I think is good because it opens the door for non-developers to get involved in FOSS development. So people like product managers, project managers, marketers, technical writers, community organizers, anybody who wants to get involved with Bitcoin, doesn't really know how, doesn't feel like they have the technical chops. One of the things we've realized is that a lot of FOSS Bitcoin projects need a lot of non-technical help. And so, yeah, if you know of a FOSS Bitcoin project that might need help like that, I encourage you to share with them our volunteer opportunity board, have them create an issue inside the opportunity repo, and fill out the information that we have. We have a template there with lots of questions. The more information that they can provide, the better. And what we'll do on the Bitcoin product side is give visibility to some of the roles. And so we're currently working on getting a Discord plugin to automatically push issues that created from that repo to our Discord. But we'll also send various issues that get created or opportunities that get posted inside our email and like in our Discord and on Twitter too. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, thanks for letting me talk about it.
Awesome. Do you have any urgent needs right now? Like what are people looking for? What's in demand? Anything you'd like to fill right away or?
Yeah, that's it's pretty interesting. So we just announced it like a couple days ago, and we had 2 submissions already. But the funny thing is that they're looking for devs. So I think they're looking for a Rust developer, and I think it's for the project eNuts or something like that. You can find them if you click into the volunteer opportunity board. But those are the 2 immediate ones that I saw.
eNuts, is that part of Cashew?
Yes, that's right. And I also, BDK, I think also was looking for a marketer to help them launch, as I think they're going to a new release like 1.0. But yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, this should be really helpful. Thank you for setting that up. I find it interesting. There's a lot of need in all the projects that I'm involved in. There's a need for people who test things, people who do copywriting, people who do translation. Project managers are always needed, but I feel like they're much less explicit. It's like if you don't have a dev, you have no code and nothing works, right? That's a very obvious thing. Then at some point, it's like, okay, we have code, but it doesn't look that great. Okay, we need a designer. Then it grows a little bit, and then you're like, okay, maybe we should localize. Okay, we need a translator. But then you need these other things, right? Other roles and activities. But you do always need a developer it's a very base layer, right? So it's interesting how it goes. And yeah, I think sometimes also projects don't realize they have that need. And sometimes the involvement can be sporadic. You kind of need developers throughout, but let's say someone does UX research, they might come in at the beginning to kind of establish what the project's about, do some competitive research, figure out personas or so. Maybe later they test an initial prototype, then they go away a little bit while some development happens, and then they test the version 1. Designers similarly also, sometimes they're in a supporting role that takes less time. Let's say all the design's done, it's all about the implementation and testing. They're not needed as much. And other times the project revolves around design. So I think sometimes these projects have smaller or larger needs for all these different things. And I think even in larger companies, tech companies, there's kind of a ratio of 6-to-1 or 7-to-1 designer to developer. So I would expect there to be more development need or development requests, even though there might actually be more need for these other roles. I don't know, just rambling now, but maybe that's maybe you can chime in on that.
That's pretty interesting. I wonder if I should try to make it more explicit that these are for non-developer roles, but I mean, it's not the worst thing if they are posting needs just in general, including dev help. Yeah.
I think the details really matter. There was another open source job board that I looked at a couple of years ago, and I heard from the people who organized the board that people only post like requests for icons and logos, and they were just like, there's all this other stuff that's needed, but people only post about this. But if you looked at the actual website, then it says like, oh, job board, post your thing here, and examples are like apps or app icons, logos. Like those are the examples they gave in the header of that website. So that was the framing that people went on there. And if they had needs for copywriting or localization, they might not have identified with that, and then they didn't post it. So I think the framing, maybe the options you give in, like, let's say you have a sign up form or a post form, I think those options, putting in the right words in there can make a big difference.
That's good feedback. I'll give it another look. I do have a little README in that board, and it does kind of specify potential positions they can post for. But maybe I should also try to. Maybe I need to also put in the template when they submit an issue.
I'll also have to take a look at it. And we also featured it in, I think this is something we can feature in the Bitcoin Design newsletter, where we have an opportunities section that people also look there in the future. By the way, if anyone here, while we're talking about it, is anyone here, if you are looking for a project to join or something to do or a job, where would you go?
I think like for me, it's like Twitter, Twitter, and also like Bitcoin meetups and conferences and like networking that way. But it's not like it's very inefficient, I feel like.
So you would not seek out job boards?
Not if I want to like contribute to a Bitcoin project, like a FOSS Bitcoin project. Because when I think of a job board, I think like, oh, these are like paid positions for a career, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways to approach it. Like the obvious way when you're looking for a job, a paid job, like a new career, is like you go to a job board, right? And there's Bitcoiner jobs for that some people know about. Usually you've already probably been in the Bitcoin industry for a bit if you heard of that website. I'm sure there's other kinds of job boards. You might go to companies you're interested in, look at the careers page. These are all things that come to mind for me personally. But then there's also this other angle of like, I think there's like once you've been like working in the industry for a little bit, you have got like a network and all that, and you know what opportunities are available, and you because of people who work for these companies, right? And a little bit more of what the expectations of working at one of these companies is going to be like. But then but if you're like brand new to working in Bitcoin, like you've never worked at a Bitcoin company before or gotten paid to work on a Bitcoin project, then it's like, okay, um, how do I demonstrate that I have the necessary skills to take on one of these jobs? And that's always like where it's not quite clear. And then it's like you can, I think for a lot of people that's the part that's not always clear. And so you can contribute to open source projects and all of that as a way of trying to learn those skills, and that takes a lot of that's not an exact science. Like you got to find open source projects that need the skills that you have, that also will help you build the kind of experience that you need to get the dream job at a Bitcoin company, right? And so like the exact path towards getting involved in an open source project in order to build some kind of career reputation isn't that path may be murky for some people.
Yeah, for me was what basically got me there is I started contributing to some projects in the design community, and then taking part in the design hackathons or the designathon and bold.fun Legends of Lightning, which was you start meeting people, and so that was kind of a soft way in to kind of get more involved, and you also get to know how these projects work, so you can kind of get a little bit of first-hand experience, whether that's for you. And yeah, so from that point, that was for me at least, that was a pretty good starting point. And then the meetups, absolutely. I think that was for me also pretty important.
Yeah, I think if you're self-driven, self-motivated, then you'll be stubborn enough to find a way, and you'll probably take that time. But I think board listings like the one Andrew and the product community set up, that's maybe a little bit of more formal way. You have laid out these different options, what people are looking for right now, which projects are. It also signals that those projects are open to new contributors. They're welcoming, that there's stuff happening there. And there are a lot of different projects with a lot of different cultures at many different stages in their life cycle in the space. So I think those listings are really great to orient yourself and to discover things. But yeah, if you're self-motivated, I think you're stubborn enough to find your way into things. And totally unrelated to this, there's a Fediment design call coming up in 9 minutes. I think this is their 9th call. I spoke to Justin about this, who works for Fedi, and they also partly run this Fediment project or try to push that forward. But while Fedi is a company, Fediment is an open source project, and they try to run those two very, very differently. The Fediment. So if you're in the Bitcoin Design Discord, there is a Fedi channel, and Seth, you're here. I see the same avatar. You did post agenda topics and open questions document there yesterday afternoon. Very few calls or projects are that prepared. Did you want to say something about this call that's coming up? And I assume you're also going to have to hop off, but I'm inviting you to speak real quick. And Jose, you're also part of the project. I'm just going to invite you to speak if you want to say a few words. There we go.
Hello, Deb here.
Hi there, I can hear you.
Excellent.
Yeah, did you want to share something about the call? If not, that's also.
Well, yeah, this is my first time ever talking on Spaces, so I'm trying to figure out the whole mic thing. Yeah, I was going to say thanks for inviting me up. Appreciate it. And yeah, in referencing Fediment, yeah, the design call is coming up in just a couple of minutes, so I'm kind of doing some multitasking here, getting my thoughts in order. Yeah, super exciting project, and I dove in headfirst, pretty deep, about a month or so ago, and I'm pretty pumped on the project. And yeah, I put together a doc. I think you mentioned that, trying to anticipate edge cases and just trying to make the process a bit more efficient. I'm a bit of a stickler for process. Sometimes I wonder if I should have been a PM over a designer, but that's a different story. Or maybe I like to dip my toes in both waters. Yeah, that's it. That's really it. I welcome anyone to hop into the call. I think that you can find the links within the Fediment channel, and I think there's a cross reference with the Bitcoin Design Discord server as well, so it should be pretty easy to find.
Awesome, thanks for that. And I think the website's fediment.org. Is there a link to the Discord? Yeah, at the very bottom in the footer. Is that the right one?
Yes, fediment.org. That's the yep. It's got a bit of a purple aesthetic to it with some three sort of value props at the in the middle area, just for reference.
Awesome. Yeah, and then chat.fediment.org is the link to the Discord server. So how about we all make our way over there right now?
Sounds like an excellent idea.
All right, I'm gonna hop off. Thanks all.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for joining.
Fediment sounds like a nice podcast to listen to.
Sorry?
Bye, everyone.
Okay, cool. Thanks all. Let's join that Fediment design call and start contributing there. If anyone's looking for an opportunity, here you go. Something to join. So see you there. Thanks for tuning in today.